Welcome back, Pokemon Trainers. Professor Chaz here, the lab coat's on back order, and it's time for the first in a long while of team building videos here on the channel. The Unova Classic in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire has begun, the latest online competition, and off the top of my head, I don't remember all the regulations, but something I like about the way things are going on the channel is, since I did have to update to a new phone for Pokemon Go, I can record on one phone, look stuff up on the other. So basically, it's a triple battle format. You get to use all 6 of your Pokemon in battle. Pokemon from all of the first 5 generations are permitted, except for restricted legendaries and all mythical Pokemon. Doesn't exactly specify which restricted legendaries, which legendaries are restricted and which aren't. But anyway, I'm not using any legendaries myself, so as you'll see when we get to the team builder. But it is triple battles, you can't use Mega Stones, Soul Dew is not permitted, which means Latios are probably going to be showing up at some point, but they can't Mega Evolve at least. And Pokemon from previous generations that have been sent up through the Poké Transporter are permitted. That is why I'm taking part, of course. I've been uploading Pokemon ever since the Fire Red and Leaf Green days, and actually, even earlier than that. The original Sapphire and Ruby and Emerald. Well, Sapphire was my game, but anyway, I've been uploading Pokemon since then. I can use them in this online competition. They're not max IV, they're just your standard regular guys that I got through the different games with, but... So, last online competition I took part in was the Unova Classic, and if you watch those videos, I basically got super destroyed. Had a terrible rating of just, I think it was like the low 1400s, but this team here, basically the day before the competition, I threw it together, but put some cool ideas into it, and now I've tried going through the triple battles in the Battle Maison, the super triple battles, and I've been thoroughly destroyed by the computer opponents. This team I've assembled this time, I took them in for some testing. I have beaten about 25 trainers in that competition, like in the super triple battles. So that means I might have a good shot at this. And I was going online just for some free battles. Of course, legendary Pokemon are everywhere in the free battles. But I had some teams I was battling against, and I have gone 5-0 or 6-0 against them. So I think I've got a good shot with the team I've assembled. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fierce competition. But with all that being said, let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah, okay, I'll set to level 50, and the important thing to note is, good luck battling in the Unova Classic. It says right there. So now, let's take a look at the team I've assembled. Essentially taking previous teams that I've gone through these classics with, but I'm trying to, update them to the current generation of what the format of the battle itself is. So you'll see I have one Gen 5 Pokemon I've added in. He's kind of the main character, so to speak. But let's check things out now as we check out the team building video. And so the first team member of the Unova Classic team is Blaze the Charizard, who can currently be seen in the Pokemon Silver playthrough thanks to the Events of Friday's episode. I'm not going to mention anything about that here. Feel free to check that out if you're curious, but Blaze is on the team both there and here. He is a quirky Pokemon, which is a neutral nature, so no stats will be boosted or dropped because of that. The ability, much like his name seems to imply, is Blaze, so if he gets at low HP, his fire-type attacks will be more powerful, and the item is Power Herb, which is a hold item that allows for a charging move, so a 2-turn move, to be used in a single turn when you use that item for the first time. And as far as the Unova Classic goes, it is triple battle format. We've got to consider the fact that we're going to have wide range possibilities for attacks and incoming attacks and such, so I've tried to plan for that. You'll see that I have a number of wide range moves on my side, and we do have Wide Guard on a Pokemon, as we'll get into that later. But another thing to consider for triple battles is, if you have your Pokemon on the left side or the right side, you can't target down the far side of the battlefield normally with certain moves. There are a few kinds of moves that can hit things like that, but we'll get into those as I explain them through the team builder here. First of all, as far as a wide range move goes, we have Heat Wave for Blaze. That'll be his fire type attack. I was considering possibly going with Flamethrower, but I thought, no, I want to get a wide range move in this situation. So Heat Wave is not fully accurate, but it has a chance to burn, and it can hit multiple targets. If he's in the middle, he'll hit all 3 of the opposing Pokemon, but if he's on either the left or right, he'll hit the one in front of him and the one in the middle. Now, Air Slash is one of those kind of moves that can target down the far side of the battlefield, and a lot of flying type attacks have that feature. In fact, I'm pretty sure maybe all flying type attacks can do that. I think the mindset of that is the fact that the Pokemon could simply fly over to that side of the battlefield or something. But there are a few non-flying type moves that can do that. And Air Slash has a chance to flinch. It's also Stab, because of course Blaze is a fire and flying type. It's not fully accurate either, but it's pretty accurate, so chances are we're going to land some hits, and as I say, it can target down the far side of the field. Now he has Solar Beam, which is why we have the Power Herb. If we see he's up against some sort of a water or rock type Pokemon, we can go for a Solar Beam, fire it off immediately one time and hopefully get a knockout. If the opponent has Sturdy or something like that, that's going to be pretty unfortunate, but at least we'll bring them down to 1 HP, I'm sure, with that Solar Beam. Mud Slap is a move that he can't relearn. He got it as, I think, a move tutor back in the Battle Frontier in Pokemon Soul Silver. And it is a ground type move, good against two of his weaknesses of Rock and Electric. It always lowers accuracy, but the fact that it's not super powerful means I'm probably not going to really be making use of it in the Unova Classic. I might though. We'll have to see how the situations call for it. For super training for our Charizard Blaze, we max out the special attack and the speed, so he hits pretty fast. He moves pretty fast and hits pretty hard on that special side, and he's one of our faster Pokemon for the team this week. The next Pokemon on the team is going to be another classic from our Kanto days, Snoozer the Snorlax. Snoozer is a quirky Pokemon as well, just like Blaze, so the stats will not be affected. The ability is Thick Fat, which provides resistance to fire and ice type attacks, and his hold item is going to be the Leftovers. Quite often I'll use Snoozer with the Rest attack and have the Chesto Berry as a hold item, but as far as triple battles go, you're not going to have as much time to do your healing and such from my own experience. Maybe I haven't been doing the proper battles, but you want to try to get your attacks off as good as you can, as fast as you can, and the fact that you don't really have much reliable time to recover. Like for example, let's say if I did have Rest on Snoozer. I go for Rest, the next turn, all three of the opposing Pokemon could target him down, so chances are he might not even really heal up for any meaningful length of time. But Leftovers is a nice, reliable way to recover some HP, and he has that of course. And the moveset for Snoozer is Body Slam for some nice stab power and a good chance to paralyze. Heavy Slam, because as you'll see, we really don't have much options to counter Fairy types this week. So Heavy Slam is a Steel type move, super effective on Fairy types. The heavier the user, based on the weight, the heavier the user is compared to the weight of the target, the more powerful Heavy Slam becomes. And I don't know if you checked the Pokedex data recently, but Snorlax is a pretty heavy Pokemon. And we also have Bulldoze on there. Ground type move that always lowers the speed of the targets, and I do have, as I mentioned I think earlier, Wide Guard is somewhere on this team, so I can Wide Guard my side, use Bulldoze, and drop the speed of the opposing Pokemon. And since we're going to be relying on somebody using some powerful ground type attacks on the team, I gave Smackdown to Snoozer. It's going to hit hit any Pokemon, but anything that's a flying type or Levitate, I believe. If you hit them with Smackdown, they can no longer be in the air. So from what I understand, now I've never really used Smackdown reliably, but I'm pretty sure it negates the immunity to ground-type attacks as long as that Pokemon remains in battle. So that could come in handy. For the Super Training for Snoozer the Snorlax, we maxed out both the attack and defense. Just dropped the remainder of the Super Training into the HP. Don't really think it makes that much of a difference, but maybe it will. Maybe if he survives with 1 HP, I'll be happy at one point. The next Pokemon, our last of the Kanto-raised, or what would you say, Cotton-raised Pokemon, Machamp. He is an Adamant Pokemon, which is an amazing nature for a Machamp to have. It's a boost to the attack stat, drop to the special attack stat. You're not going to have a Machamp use a special move anytime soon, so therefore losing that stat to boost the attack even higher is a great way to go. He has the Guts ability. I might have considered going with no guard for this week, but I thought, you know what, in case he does get a special condition on him, then it's going to boost his attack stat even more. And just to boost the power of all of his physical moves, we do have Muscle Band, adding, I think it's 10% to the power of all physical type attacks. And starting with those physical type attacks, the moveset begins with Brick Break. If the opponent does want to set up things like Reflect or Light Screen, we have a nice stab Brick Break on Machamp. We can bust that barrier, therefore negating their resistance to whatever type of attack they've set up the defenses for. And Knockoff is always a nice reliable move. It's a Dark type move, and if the opponent is holding an item, and fortunately, the fact that Legendary Pokemon and Mega Stones are not permitted means I can knock off any item that the opponent might happen to have. But you'll see, I have Knockoff on here for one other thing, and I'll mention that when we get to it. But getting rid of the opponent's hold items is always a good way to go. And Ice Punch is one of Machamp's favorite moves. It is good for his weakness to flying, and just good for type coverage overall. Chance to freeze, don't really see that ever happen that often, but if I do get to see it, I'll be happy. And we do have Wide Guard on Machamp. As I say, since the triple battle format allows for some wide range attacks to hit all of my team, we can go ahead and Wide Guard. It's also going to I get to stumble over my words. It's going to protect my team from all the different wide range moves that I'm using as well that might hurt my side. For the Super Training for Machamp, look how happy he is to be here. He's just raring to go. We've maxed out the attack stat, dropped the remainder into his 2 defensive stats. They've got up to about 211 for defense, 212 for special defense. These are, of course, level 100 stats, so they're going to be reduced down to level 50 stats when we get into the battle. But he's decently defensive, but his attack is amazing at 367. Now, for the next Pokemon on the team, the first of our later generations, we have from Gen 2, everybody, Egbert the Togetic. He is a naughty Pokemon, which is a boost to his physical attack while dropping the special defense. So, not a great nature for our Egbert to have, but it is what he was hatched with back in... what game was that? Soul Silver, yes. So it's what he had, and it's what he's had this whole time. We're going to work with it. The ability is Serene Grace, which has an increased effect... what do we say? Increased chance to have the special effect, or secondary effect, of an attack. And the Eviolite is, of course, the held item. It's going to boost, I believe, by 50% both of his defensive stats. You can see right there the defenses are at 245 each, so boosting those by half would be 360-ish, but almost 370 for the defenses. Now, the moveset is Water Pulse. That's where that Serene Grace is going to come in handy. I think Water Pulse has like a 1 in 3 chance, or maybe a 1 in 5 chance to cause confusion on the opponent. Either way, whatever the chances are, Serene Grace is going to boost that up even more, so we could get some good confusions. Another thing about Water Pulse is, it is one of those moves that can target the far side of the battlefield. So if Egbert is off to the left, I can hit something on the right, possibly get some confusion, maybe some super effective damage. We also have Follow Me, because as far as multi-battle things go, where you have triple or double battles or something, attack redirection is a very important thing to consider. So if I have somebody, like for example Blaze in the active spot, and someone goes for a water type attack on him, I can use Follow Me and draw that attack away from Blaze onto Egbert. That way Blaze is safe for that turn. You're going to see, I'm going to try to make use of the Follow Me of Egbert and Wide Guard of Machamp to protect my middle Pokemon from a lot of attacks, wide range or single target, depending on how the placement of the Pokemon go. And to boost some defenses for the team, we have Reflect on Egbert to boost our physical defense by 50% for 5 turns. And in case we do see ourselves getting hit with multiple status conditions, we have Heal Bell on our Togetic also to cure off whatever status conditions the opponent hits us with. Egbert's super training was to max out his defense and put a good amount in special defense. Got them both at 245 at level 100. And put the remainder of the super training for special attack just to power the Water Pulse up a little bit more. Try to get a little bit more damage off, but he's not really going to be relying on being an attacker. He's more of a support Pokemon for the week. Kind of like Machamp, but Machamp has more options for physical offense. Now, in Gen 3, one of our returning members, which you haven't seen yet in any playthroughs, but we will be seeing her at some point before too long, Scruff the Manectric. She is a relaxed Pokemon. That is a boost to her defense stat and dropping the speed. So again, not a perfect nature, but it is what she has. And the Lightning Rod ability could be some more attack redirection. If the opponent goes for a Thunderbolt, I can switch Scruff in, draw that attack away. Instead of taking damage, Lightning Rod is going to allow Scruff to boost her special attack stat by a stage. Her item is White Herb, which is a hold item that immediately cancels the stat drop as soon as something happens. For example, like, let's say Intimidate drops her attack stat, White Herb will activate, cure off that stat drop. Now she's used the item and it's gone. But I have a better idea for the White Herb, as you'll see. First of all, wide range move in Discharge. We could get some good paralysis, and Discharge has a better chance to paralyze than Thunderbolt. I could have gone, for example, like with Blaze, Flamethrower instead of Heat Wave. I could have gone Thunderbolt instead of Discharge, but I've got one single target attack on Scruff, so I think Discharge could be a decent way to go. And Overheat is the reason we have the White Herb. It is a very powerful, I believe, base 130 fire type attack. The downside is it sharply lowers the user's special attack stat, but I can use that White Herb immediately to get myself back to neutral, thereby negating that stat drop, and the Discharge and Overheat are still going to hit at their regular power, as is the Snarl attack. Now Snarl tends to work a little bit better when she has the Mega Stone. Of course, she can't Mega Evolve in this competition, but the Snarl is a dark type attack that always lowers the special attack of the targets that are hit. So it is a good way to lower the special attack damage incoming from the opposing side. Another way to do that, though, we have Light Screen on Scruff. So Egbert will be our physical wall setter, Scruff is our special wall setter, increasing our special defense by 50% from the opposing attacks for 5 turns. Super training for Scruff is pretty much identical to Blaze the Charizard. Max out the special attack and the speed, so she attacks pretty quick, and she also hits pretty hard with the special attacks of Discharge, Overheat, and that Snarl. The last Pokemon on the team, this is our Gen 5 inclusion, is going to be Irwin the Crocodile. Now, this is kind of cool. This works out better than I would have expected, and this is the first time I'm using a particular kind of held item. But anyway, Brave Nature for Irwin, which is a boost to his attack stat, but lowers the speed, so not terribly amazing based on the strategy I'm going with, but you'll see. The ability is Moxie, so every time Irwin gets a knockout against an opponent, or I think it even activates if you knock your own out, I'm not sure about that, but I'm not going to aim to do that. every time Irwin gets a knockout on at least the opponent, his attack stat will raise by 1 level, and then you're going to be, just be basically doing more damage with all of your attacks. The item is, for the first time, I'm using a choice item, Choice Scarf. The way Choice Scarf works is, when you hold this item, it boosts your speed by 50%, I believe, but it locks you into using only one move, so I have to choose carefully which attack to go for. As soon as Irwin uses that first move, he can't use anything else unless I switch him out of battle, and chances are I won't have that many options to switch him out. Plus, as soon as he starts getting knockouts with Moxie, I'm not going to want to switch him out anyway, because he'll lose those attack boosts. But anyway, for the move set, we went with Earthquake, amazingly powerful, 100 damage base power, and its stab, of course. The thing to consider is, if the opponent has a number of immunities to it, like flying types or levitate, then Earthquake might not be the attack I want to lock myself into, but there is the option of using Snoozer's Smackdown. We're going to make the opponent vulnerable to ground type attacks just like Earthquake. And Crunch is there for also stab power. And I don't want to give Irwin just wide range moves, because if the opponent sends in a wide guard Pokemon and Irwin is locked into Earthquake, suddenly he's not going to be able to touch the opponents whatsoever. So I might have to switch him out at that point, bring him back in, go for Crunch. You'll see, we'll see how this goes, basically. Dragon Claw is on there, too. I was considering Outrage for more power, but the problem with Outrage, you don't control who you're targeting with that, and if the opponent has a Fairy type in there, I could simply lose my turn going for Outrage randomly against the Fairy type. So I thought, let's go with Dragon Claw. If it turns out any of his other attacks are not going to be super useful, I can lock myself into a Dragon Claw. The Choice Scarf is going to boost our speed from 253 to, what would that be, about 380 just about. So it's going to be pretty fast, and the Dragon Claw could be reliable damage on things, as long as it's going to be neutral and such, but we'll see what happens with the opponents that we face. Last move is Rock Slide. So if the Choice Scarf allows Irwin to be faster, despite the fact that his nature does drop his speed stat, unfortunately, if he's going to be faster, we could get some flinching with that Rock Slide, or if we just see that they have a lot of immunities to ground, we can go Rock Slide. Chances are those immunities are going to be flying-type Pokemon that will be weak to the rock attacks. For the super training for Irwin, maxed out the attack stat, maxed out the speed. That's basically all we needed to do to put the stats where they needed to be, getting the speed up as high as possible to make sure that Choice Scarf boosts it quite nicely. Anyway, with me stumbling over my words quite a bit in this team builder, hopefully that wasn't too distracting, but that is our team for the Unova Classic. I am about to start recording some battles, and they didn't exactly specify how many battles per day will be permitted, but I think I'm going to stick with my usual pattern of I'll record 10 battles each day, choose like some of the more interesting ones to show off, like say 3 battles per video, and as long as I can get the editing done in a timely manner, over the weekend you're going to see Day 1 recap, Day 2 recap, Day 3 recap, probably 3 battles per video, and we'll see how well we do in the Unova Classic. As I said at the start, given the fact that I've made it so far into the Battle Maison with this team, and I've taken down a number of legendary teams in the free battle on Battle Spot with this team, I think my chances are pretty good. Now, of course, those teams are not always the most competitive, so we could be completely overselling ourselves here. But we'll have to wait and see how things go as the battles begin. But come on back this weekend and check out the Day 1 recap, and then continue on to Day 2 and Day 3 as we continue going through the Unova Classic. Hopefully we can come out with a positive win rate this time. But even if we don't, I'm going into it having fun, and I'm enjoying my first time using a choice item, seeing the power that goes behind them. So of course there's choice band and choice specs as well, which increase attack and special attack respectively, also locking you into a single move. But speed is definitely going to be an important thing to go for this team. So anyway, all that being said, come on back later on, check out those battles as I upload them to the channel. Until then, Professor Chaz is signing off, and wait, before I do that, feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the team I've assembled, and if you have any suggestions for improvements for future battles, leave those as well, because I look forward to getting some more information, get some more ideas bouncing around the head, and see what I can think of incorporating for future battles with some of these Pokemon. Now that that's all said, Professor Chaz is signing off, and I'll catch you next time.